right, it's time. I got my ticket to go see the new 2019 Hellboy movie. This movie's gonna kick ass. I can't wait. May not have Ron Perlman in it, but I heard this guy does a great job. Warning, the following movie review is rated R for retarded. In a world full of crime, corruption, and destruction, one man decides to review movies. This is Devil Dog at the Movies. Well, everybody, I am back from going and seeing the new 2019 Hellboy movie. First of all, before I get started, I want to say I tried to avoid any of the teaser trailers for this movie. And this video, despite what I say, is also going to be spoiler free. So if you still want to go see this movie after my review, I'm not going to spoil anything in it. Not really much to spoil. Hands down, first of all, I want to say, naturally, the only true personal Hellboy in my heart is still Ron Perlman. And even though this guy does a fantastic job in portraying Hellboy, a really good job at that. For me, I won't really ever believe anybody else can fill the role of Hellboy other than Ron Perlman. There's just certain people that are synonymous with certain characters, and Hellboy is one of them. Hands down, I do have to say the guy did a great job, though, nonetheless. I think he was, in Stranger Things, he was the cop in Stranger Things. But nonetheless, I digress. What did I think of Hellboy? Well, oh boy, how to say this. It's a terribly bad, awful, shitty, garbage movie, and at the same time, it's really, really cool. Now, let me explain what I mean by that. This movie has a nonsensical, scatterbrain, piss-poor plot to it. It starts off with a bunch of information filling you in about certain characters, about like the main villain, and then it jumps into Hellboy doing his thing, going around killing demons and stuff like that, and the business he works with his father. It does deviate a lot, since this is like a remake of the original, more based off of the actual comic book source material than the Del Toro movies. This movie has a terrible plot. It does not have a plot. It jumps around sporadically from one location to the next, tying in these characters in a very loose fashion, with the main villain teaming up with another villain that hates Hellboy and wants revenge. And so this character goes out and pretty much helps resurrect the main villain to pretty much defeat Hellboy. And really, I kind of explained the whole movie a lot better than the movie does. It's nothing more than a bunch of set-piece moments of Hellboy and co. going to different locations, getting into fights with a bunch of demons. Now, I will say the effects are hit and miss, too. Some of the effects are actually kind of fairly well done. Some of the practical effects and things like that are well done. And then there's a lot of effects where CGI looks just terrible. I mean, it looks god-awful. I mean, it looks like it's not even finished. Like, they started rendering it, and they're like, well, we ain't got the money, let's move on to the next sequence. And like I said, it's just an excuse to throw all kinds of neat, very well-designed demon characters and monsters at Hellboy for Hellboy to fight. And when it gets down to that aspect, those parts are fantastic. The character designs are superb. They're demented. The demons are really cool. They have a good amount of character to these demons. And the fights, some of them are fairly well done and choreographed fairly decent. But the thing I have to say is Hellboy is a bitch in this. Every 5 seconds when he's fighting, he's getting his ass handed to him. And, for him to be this great and glorious, powerful demon, he's kind of a puss. I mean, seriously, it's like just about every fight sequence he has in this movie, he's getting thrown around like a little bitch and getting beat up constantly. And, they're just throwing so many different characters at you with no real development. And other characters from the comic book, which they don't develop enough. Then they go and show a rehashed version of the origin of Hellboy, of how he was created by the Nazis and stuff like that. And that part I didn't mind that much because, like I said, a lot of the acting is fairly well done, and a lot of the way the film, the film is shot is very well done too. But it's just so damn sporadic. It doesn't really have a plot that is cohesive at all. And, I'm not going to spoil much, but I'm going to tell you it has to do with the Knights of the Round Table, King Arthur, and Excalibur that's used to kill a demon witch, basically, and chop her up into different pieces. And then so this monster who wants to get revenge on Hellboy for basically, scaring him off and beating him up when he was a child, decides to go around, gather these pieces, put them together, resurrect this lady so that the lady, the witch, can give him ultimate power so he can pretty much get revenge on Hellboy, which is kind of stupid. And then you got all these other, plots going on with these other characters, Hellboy's father, and it's just, like I said, it's just this ho-hum excuse to go from point A to point B to point C, just to have these fight scenes with these demons and monsters, and serves no fundamental purpose. It really is a slapdash, shitty-ass, terrible plot. And that's why I have to say, if you go to see this movie just to see some fairly decent effects, some really neat monster designs and demon designs, a fairly decent acted version of Hellboy, and some neat set-piece moments, you'll be entertained. I mean, the fight scenes and the monsters and stuff were entertaining to watch. Those parts were actually entertaining to watch. But the fact that there was no cohesive plot in this movie, other than the bare basic bones of what I told you, with a demon witch being brought back to life after being cut into multiple pieces by, King Arthur and Excalibur centuries ago, I mean, really, it has no plot to it. And I'm not going to spoil much by saying this, but even at the end, they go and fight this other cult for no apparent reason. And when they kill all the cultists, they find Abe Sapien in a big container. All you see is his hand press against the glass, which may actually think that they're going to have a sequel with this. Now, the rated R, this movie is rated R. Unlike the other ones, which I think were PG-13, I think that's going to be a major hindrance on this movie. Because the whole aspect of being able to make enough profit from this movie would have been from probably having a PG-13 rating. And they do use the R rating for the fact that the story is a lot darker. What story you get's darker. But the rated R is strictly used for gore. With certain movies out there that have gore just to have gore, and there's no fundamental purpose other than try to get shock value, that's the problem with this movie as well. It has gore just to have gore. I mean, massive amounts of blood and guts are throughout this movie. Some of it is very well done practical effects with a hybrid of CGI, and there's other parts that are straight CGI. And like I said, most of the CGI is not well done. And the gore is just put into the movie just for gore. I mean, people are constantly getting killed, ripped to shreds, guts torn out, brains blown out, demons ripped to shreds. So, I mean, if you want to go and see a movie that is super gory and has some really neat demon designs and a fairly decent set-piece moments, this movie probably be up your alley. But if you're expecting any semblance of any sort of good storytelling and a decent plot with a beginning, middle, and end, this has to be one of the worst movies I've ever seen. That's why I'm saying this movie absolutely sucks ass. And at the same time, I absolutely loved it. Because you have to have a cohesiveness to make a movie. And this does not have this. This has sporadic ass, jump to here, jump to there, jump to there. just for the excuse of fighting. And if they would have taken their time and maybe came up with a script that actually had a beginning, middle, and end to it, and a cohesive flow, and a little bit better development of the characters, and mainly the villain and some of the characters that worked with Hellboy, other than just, hey, she's a friend of mine. Well, she's going to tag along. Well, she's a psychic, but now she has these magic powers. They don't explain anything. And, the backstory of his one guy, the Japanese guy, let's just say a spin of being a werewolf, but more of a werecat. And it has some main problems with it. I mean, even if you get down to certain things like this guy will turn into this big giant werecat, right? But one minute he's got full clothes on, like bulletproof vest and all this gear on, and he turns into a werecat and he's naked because he's a werecat. And when he turns back into the human, he's got all his clothes back on again. It's got the classic old style, Incredible Hulk sort of mentality of, hey, okay, if you would have just shown the guy go behind a pillar and start taking his clothes off before he morphed, I'd have less problems with it. But if that was the only problem with this movie, then I would say that it's a blockbuster. But this movie is not going to win any awards. And I'm afraid to say, with the rated R rating and just the overall terrible ass plot, I don't see them making another one in the future. I don't see this movie making enough money to warrant an actual sequel. Because other than the first batch of people that go and see it, after that point, I think most everyone's going to start telling people, hey, this movie sucks. When there's other movies out there, like even Pet Sematary, while it was a pretty much a scene-by-scene recreation up until the halfway point of the original Pet Sematary movie, it still had a way better plot. It had way better flow to it. It was slow-paced, but it had an overall better structure to it. Hands down, out of all the movies I've seen lately, I still say Shazam is number one, my absolute favorite movie. I recommend that to anyone. I liked Pet Sematary, even though it's a darker, grittier version of the original one. But in the end, I would have to say I absolutely hated Hellboy. It was a garbage movie with some very good monster designs and some really good practical effects and some really good acting by the guy that played Hellboy. Nonetheless, you can't just take CGI that's half-baked. You can't take practical effects and put them together in a movie without having a cohesive plot that starts from beginning to end. And in the end, I would have to say pass on this movie. If you're a huge fan of the Hellboy franchise, just go and watch the first and second movies. They are actually better and more well done. The only thing that this movie has that I liked, like I said, are some of the monster and demon designs. And in the end, definitely don't go see this movie. It is not a good movie. They shouldn't have made this. And I feel bad for the fact that, maybe Ron Perlman knew. Maybe that's why him and the director didn't want to do this. I know Del Toro said that he thought that that it shouldn't make a third one, that it was fine with the second or something like that. But in the end, this movie was a terrible movie, and I can say save your money and go see Shazam or even Pet Sematary. This was Nate, aka Devil Dog. I want to thank each and every one of you for watching this video. Please leave in the comments below if you actually plan on seeing Hellboy, if you've seen it already, and what your thoughts of this movie was. And remember, I always end my videos by saying, have fun, play hard, and remember, people, the devil is in the details. Peace out.